Morning light flooded the lobby of the tech corporation's headquarters. A single dad in maintenance uniform stepped out from the repair room, carrying an old toolbox with a faded logo on its lid. The young CEO stopped in her tracks, eyebrows raised. "Why's my company's logo on your toolbox?" Employees nearby snickered. "Probably stolen." The man looked at her for just 1 second, his voice calm and steady. "Because I built it before you bought it." The entire lobby fell silent. No one knew that this maintenance worker was the man who designed the very first system that kept her company alive. Jack Turner was 40 years old, but his hands told the story of someone who had lived twice that long. Calloused fingers, permanent grease stains, scars from 1,000 repairs. He worked as a maintenance technician at Apex Technologies, one of the biggest tech corporations in the country. But 10 years ago, he was something completely different. Back then, Jack was a mechanical engineer and co-founder of a small hardware startup called Vontech. He had built the first prototype with his own hands, working 16-hour days in a cramped garage. His wife, Sarah, was alive then, cheering him on through every failure and breakthrough. But then everything changed. Sarah died in a car accident when their daughter Ella was just 6 months old. The grief was unbearable. Jack's business partners saw weakness, saw opportunity. They forced him out, bought his shares for pennies, and rebranded the company. He signed the papers in a fog, barely reading them, just wanting to hold his baby girl and disappear. Now, 10 years later, that small startup had become Apex Technologies. And Jack? He was invisible. Just another maintenance worker in blue coveralls, fixing broken printers and faulty air conditioners. Nobody looked at him twice. Nobody asked questions. That was exactly how he wanted it. This morning, Jack was on the 32nd floor, repairing a jammed industrial printer. His daughter Ella, now 9 years old, was waiting for him at home. She had a school project due tomorrow, and he promised to help her build a volcano model tonight. Single dad life meant every minute counted. He wiped his hands on a rag and picked up his toolbox. It was old, silver metal, dented from years of use. On the lid, barely visible under layers of scratches, was a faded logo and some etched letters. Property of JT. He had carved those letters himself, back when he still believed his name would mean something. Jack headed toward the elevator, his mind already on grocery shopping and homework help. Then he heard the sharp click of heels on marble. Aurora Lane, the CEO, 31 years old, brilliant, ambitious, and ruthless. She had inherited Apex Technologies from her father 2 years ago and turned it into a billion-dollar empire. She wore power suits like armor and spoke in clipped, commanding sentences. Everyone feared her. Jack had seen her from a distance before, but they had never spoken. Why would they? She was the queen of the tower. He was the man who fixed the toilets. But today, she stopped right in front of him, her eyes locked onto his toolbox. "Wait." Jack froze. Aurora pointed at the faded logo on the lid. "Why is my company's logo on your toolbox?" Her voice was ice cold, suspicious. Employees in the hallway turned to stare. Jack looked down at the box, then back at her. "It's an old one, ma'am. From before the rebrand." "From before the rebrand?" Aurora's eyes narrowed. "That logo hasn't been used in over a decade." A junior manager passing by smirked. "Probably stolen from storage." Others chuckled. Jack felt the heat rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "I didn't steal it." "Then where did you get it?" Jack met her gaze, his jaw tight. "Because I built it before you bought it." The hallway went completely silent. Aurora blinked, confused. "What did you just say?" Jack said nothing. He simply turned and walked toward the elevator, his toolbox swinging gently at his side. Behind him, Aurora's voice rang out, sharp and furious. "Stop him! I want security to check his background, now." Within minutes, 2 security guards appeared. They weren't subtle. One of them grabbed Jack's arm while the other took his toolbox. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Employees gathered in clusters, whispering, phones out, recording. Jack didn't resist. He knew how this looked. A maintenance worker with a mysterious toolbox, a CEO demanding answers. In their eyes, he was guilty until proven innocent. Aurora stood in the center of the lobby, arms crossed, watching like a judge presiding over a trial. "Open it," she commanded. The guard flipped the toolbox open. Inside were wrenches, screwdrivers, wire cutters, a small soldering iron. Nothing unusual, nothing expensive. But Aurora wasn't satisfied. "Check his employee file. I want to know everything about this man." One of the HR managers hurried over with a tablet, scrolling frantically. "Jack Turner, hired 3 years ago as a maintenance technician. No prior record with the company. Clean background check." Aurora frowned. 3 years? And before that? Looks like he worked at various repair shops. Nothing notable." Jack stood silently, his face unreadable. A young employee in a designer suit laughed. "Maybe he's a hoarder. Old guy probably found it in a dumpster." More laughter rippled through the crowd. Aurora raised a hand, silencing them. "Mr. Turner, I'll ask you one more time. Where did you get that toolbox?" Jack looked at her, really looked at her. He saw her father in her eyes, the same sharpness, the same certainty, but none of the humility. "I told you already," Jack said quietly. "I built it before you bought it." "That's impossible. This company was founded by my father and his partners. There was no you." Jack's lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't argue. Aurora's patience snapped. "You know what? I don't have time for riddles. If you stole company property, I'll have you arrested. If you're lying, you're fired." She turned to security. "Escort him out and confiscate that toolbox as evidence." "Wait." The voice came from the back of the crowd. An older man in a white lab coat pushed through. His name was Martin Chen, one of the senior engineers who had been with the company since the Vantech days. He stared at Jack, eyes wide with recognition. "Jack? Jack Turner?" Aurora turned sharply. "You know him?" Martin ignored her, stepping closer to Jack. "Sir, is it really you?" Jack gave a small nod. Martin's face went pale. "Oh my God, it is you!" Aurora's frustration boiled over. "Would someone please explain what's going on?" Martin turned to her, his voice shaking. "Ma'am, this man isn't a thief. He's the co-founder of Vantech, the original company. He designed the first prototype that your father's team built this entire empire on." The lobby erupted in shocked murmurs. Aurora stared at Martin, then at Jack, her expression shifting from anger to confusion. "That's impossible. The co-founder was listed as missing. He disappeared years ago." "I didn't disappear," Jack said quietly. "I just stopped mattering." Aurora's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked down at the toolbox again, this time with different eyes. Martin knelt beside it, running his fingers over the faded logo. "I remember this. You used to bring it to the lab every day. You'd work on prototypes until 3 in the morning, then go home and take care of your baby daughter." Jack's jaw tightened. "Ella. Her name is Ella." Martin nodded. "You left right after Sarah died. We all thought you went abroad. But you've been here the whole time?" "I needed work. I needed to provide. Apex was hiring maintenance staff. No one asked questions." Aurora finally found her voice. "Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell anyone who you were?" Jack looked at her, his eyes tired but steady. "Because titles don't pay rent, and my daughter needed a father, not a ghost chasing credit." The crowd was completely silent now. Even the mockers had gone quiet. Aurora felt something unfamiliar twist in her chest. Shame. She looked at the security guard still holding Jack's arms. "Let him go." They released him immediately. Jack picked up his toolbox, checking to make sure nothing was broken. Aurora stepped closer, her voice softer now. "Mr. Turner, I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything," Jack said. "You didn't know. But I should have asked before I accused." Jack shrugged. "People see what they expect to see." He turned to leave, but Aurora's voice stopped him. "Wait, please." Jack paused. Aurora took a breath. "I want to make this right." Jack looked back at her, his expression unreadable. "You can't make it right. What's done is done." And with that, he walked toward the elevator, leaving Aurora standing alone in the lobby, surrounded by 100 staring employees. For the first time in her life, she felt small. Aurora stood frozen in the lobby, her mind racing. She pulled out her phone and called her executive assistant. Get me every file on the original Vontech founders. Names, contracts, patents, everything. 10 minutes. Then she turned to Martin Chen. Walk with me. They headed to her private office on the top floor. Once inside, Aurora poured water with shaking hands. Tell me everything about Jack Turner. Martin sat down slowly. Jack was the heart of Vontech, not just a co-founder, the engineer, the visionary. Your father handled business and funding, but Jack built everything. Aurora listened, her throat tight. The first prototype that became our flagship line, Jack designed it in his garage while his wife was pregnant. 16-hour days. He believed in the vision more than anyone. What happened? Martin took a breath. His wife died, Sarah. She convinced Jack to start the company. His voice cracked. A drunk driver. Red light. She died instantly. Jack was at the lab when he got the call. 6-month-old baby at home. Ella. Aurora felt her stomach drop. Jack fell apart. We all did. No family, no support. He tried working, but you could see it. He was drowning. And he stopped coming. Missed meetings. Your father and the partners got nervous. Investors demanding results. They thought he abandoned them. So they forced him out. Martin nodded grimly. 50,000 for shares worth millions now. He couldn't negotiate, could barely function, signed everything to make the pain stop. Aurora felt sick. My father never told me. He thought Jack would take the money and start over. No one knew he'd work here as maintenance. A knock. Aurora's assistant entered with a thick folder. Your files, ma'am. Aurora took them, hands trembling. First document. Original partnership agreement. 3 names, 3 signatures. Jack Turner listed first. She flipped pages. Technical drawings. Initialed JT. Patents with Jack Turner as a primary inventor. Emails from her father calling Jack's designs revolutionary. A photograph. 3 men, garage, crude prototype. Her father young and hungry. Jack in the middle, smiling, holding a baby carrier. Aurora's vision blurred. Financial statements. Buyout amount. $50,000 for the man who built a billion-dollar empire. Then something made her freeze. A handwritten note from her father. Yellowed. 15 years old. Jack is the best engineer I've met. He sees what others can't. If this company succeeds, it's because of him. I hope one day to make this right. But for now, survival first. Aurora set it down, hands shaking. She looked at Martin. Why didn't anyone tell me? Martin met her gaze. Shame is easier to bury than face. Aurora stood abruptly. I need to find him. She grabbed her coat. Martin called after her. He's had 10 years to build walls. Then I'll climb them. She went straight to HR. Jack Turner's address. Now. Patricia looked up nervously. We can't give out employee information without consent. Aurora leaned on the desk. That man built this company. I humiliated him publicly. I'm apologizing today. Patricia hesitated, then nodded. She printed a slip of paper. Aurora grabbed it. But heading to the elevator, the doors opened. Jack stepped out, surprised. Forgot something, he said, holding a screwdriver. Aurora stepped in beside him. Doors closed. Silence. The elevator descended. Finally, Aurora spoke. I read your files. Jack said nothing. The designs, patents, partnership agreement, buyout papers. Jack stared ahead. I found my father's note about you. Jack's jaw tightened. Your father was a good businessman. He stole from you. He bought me out. I signed willingly. You were grieving. Newborn baby. You couldn't negotiate. Jack looked at her, eyes tired but clear. What do you want, Ms. Lane? Anger? Absolution? Aurora's voice softened. I want to give you what you deserve. Jack shook his head. I don't need money. Don't need titles. I have what I need. What's that? Time with my daughter. Roof over our heads. Food on the table. Ground floor. Doors opened. Jack stepped out. Aurora followed into the parking lot. Let me make a statement. Tell people the truth. Jack stopped and turned. You want the truth? His voice calm but steel underneath. I built machines that outlasted my credit. I chose my daughter over pride, and I'd choose her again. I don't need the world to know my name to sleep at night. Aurora felt tears. It's not fair. Jack smiled sadly. Fairness is luxury. I'm a single dad. Gave up on fair long ago. Focus on what I control. He walked toward his pickup. Aurora called out, What if I want to build something new? With you, as partners? Jack paused, turned slowly. Why? This company runs on your genius. I've coasted on autopilot. I want to create something that matters. Can't do it without someone who knows how to build from nothing. Jack studied her, saw something different, not arrogance, humility, sincerity. I'll think about it. He climbed in and drove away. Aurora stood alone, watching taillights disappear. First time in 2 years, she had something to prove. Not to the board, not to shareholders, to herself. But the next morning changed everything. Security called her office. Ma'am, there's an older engineer here. Says Jack Turner sent him. Aurora rushed to the lobby. An elderly man stood there, holding blueprints. Ms. Lane, I'm Robert Hayes. Worked with Jack 15 years ago. Jack sent you? Not exactly, but I heard what happened yesterday. Thought you should see these. He unrolled the blueprints on the reception desk. These are Jack's original designs, the ones your father's team built the company on. Aurora stared, every detail, every calculation. Pure genius. But there's more, Robert said. He pulled out a faded journal. Jack kept notes, plans for next-generation systems, revolutionary ideas he never got to build. Aurora's breath caught. He abandoned these? No, he gave them up. For Ella, he chose being present over being remembered. Robert looked at her seriously. Jack Turner isn't bitter, but he deserves better than maintenance work. If you're serious about making this right, don't just offer him a title. Give him what he never had. What's that? A true partnership, respect, and the freedom to build again. Aurora held the journal carefully. Thank you for bringing this. Robert nodded. Jack's the best man I know. Don't waste this chance. He left. Aurora stood there, journal in hand. Inside were sketches, formulas, dreams deferred. She made a decision, pulled out her phone. Cancel all my meetings today. I'm rewriting our company's future. She looked at the journal again. On the first page, Jack had written something years ago. Build things that outlast you. Love people more than projects. Be present for what matters. Aurora felt tears. For the first time, she understood. Success wasn't about being the smartest in the room. It was about recognizing genius when it stood quietly in front of you and having the courage to make things right. The next morning, Aurora called an emergency all-staff meeting. Every employee in the building packed into the main auditorium. Rumors had been flying since yesterday's lobby incident. People were confused, curious. Some were scared they'd be fired for laughing at Jack. Aurora took the stage, her expression serious. Yesterday, I made a mistake. The room went quiet. I accused a man of theft without knowing the facts. I humiliated him publicly, and in doing so, I humiliated this entire company. She clicked a remote, and a projection appeared on the screen behind her. It was a photo from 15 years ago. 3 men standing in front of a garage, holding a metal prototype. One of them was a younger Jack Turner. This man is Jack Turner. Some of you saw him yesterday. Most of you know him as a maintenance worker. Aurora paused. But the truth is, Jack Turner is the reason this company exists. She showed another slide. Patent documents, technical drawings, all signed by Jack. He co-founded Vantech, the company my father acquired and rebranded into Apex Technologies. Every product we make today is built on the foundation he created. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Aurora's voice grew stronger. Jack lost his wife. He was forced out while he was grieving. And instead of suing us, instead of fighting for credit, he worked quietly in our building for 3 years, fixing our mistakes, keeping our systems running. She looked directly at the employees who had mocked him. And some of you laughed at him. The room was utterly silent. Let me be clear. If I ever hear anyone in this company disrespect another human being based on their job title, they will be gone. Jack Turner has more integrity in his toolbox than some of you have in your entire careers. Applause started slowly, then built into a wave. Aurora held up her hand. I've asked Mr. Turner to join us today. I don't know if he'll come, but if he does, I want you to show him the respect he's always deserved. The auditorium doors opened. Jack walked in, wearing a clean button-down shirt and jeans. Beside him, holding his hand, was his daughter Ella. She wore a bright yellow dress and looked around with wide, curious eyes. The entire room stood up. The applause was thunderous. Jack looked uncomfortable, but Ella beamed with pride. Aurora walked down from the stage and approached them. She knelt down to Ella's level. You must be Ella. The girl nodded shyly. Your dad is a hero. Did you know that? Ella looked up at Jack and smiled. I already knew. Aurora stood and extended her hand to Jack. Thank you for coming. Jack shook her hand. You didn't have to do this. Yes, I did. Aurora turned to address the crowd again. I've offered Mr. Turner a position as Chief Innovation Officer. He hasn't accepted yet, but whether he does or not, his legacy will be honored. She gestured to a plaque being unveiled on the wall. It read, In honor of Jack Turner, builder of beginnings. Jack stared at it, his eyes glistening. Ella squeezed his hand. That's you, Daddy. Jack nodded, unable to speak. Aurora whispered to him. You said titles don't matter, but respect does. Let them give you this. Jack looked at his daughter, then at the crowd, then back at Aurora. He nodded. After the meeting, Aurora invited Jack and Ella to her office. Ella sat on the couch, swinging her legs and looking at the city view. Jack and Aurora stood by the window. You could have sued us for billions, Aurora said quietly. Jack shrugged. Money doesn't bring back time. But it could have given you options. I had options. I chose the one that mattered. Aurora looked at him. How do you do it? How do you let go of something you built and not feel bitter? Jack was quiet for a moment. Because I didn't lose what I built. I just stopped owning it. There's a difference. Aurora frowned. I don't understand. Jack pointed at the city below. See those buildings? Someone designed them. Someone poured the concrete. Someone wired the lights. But do you know their names? Aurora shook her head. Exactly. But the buildings still stand. The work still matters. That's what I learned. He turned to her. Titles fade. Credit fades. But the things we build, they live on. Aurora felt a lump in her throat. So you'll turn down my offer? Jack smiled. I didn't say that. Aurora's eyes widened. I'll accept on one condition. Name it. Jack nodded toward Ella. I leave every day at 3:30. No exceptions. I have a daughter to raise. Aurora smiled, relief flooding through her. Deal. They shook hands. Ella looked up from the couch. Daddy, does this mean we can stop eating ramen every night? Jack laughed, a real deep laugh. Yes, sweetheart. We can upgrade to spaghetti. Aurora grinned. I think we can do better than that. As they left the office together, Aurora watched Jack and Ella walk down the hallway, hand in hand. She thought about her father, about legacy, about what it meant to build something that lasted. And for the first time, she understood. It wasn't about the name on the door. It was about the hands that built it. I used to think success meant everyone knowing your name. But I was wrong. Real success is knowing that what you built helps someone, somewhere, live a better life. I used to build machines. Now I build moments with my daughter. And you know what? That's the best thing I've ever created. Jack and Ella walk out of the building into the evening light. The camera pans up to the Apex Technologies sign. Beneath it, a new plaque has been installed. Built on the foundation of J. Turner, the builder of beginnings. The sun sets behind the building. Fade to black. Subscribe if you believe honor always finds its way back home.